Welcome to MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers. Each week, I talk with industry leaders on both marketing and entrepreneurship and business to find out all about their wins and failures in marketing right now. We'll hear all about successes and wins and what's fallen flat so that you can take that knowledge and implement it. Learn from the best, from the folks who've been there and done it all, as well as people just like you. Thanks for joining us. This is MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers. This week I'm joined by fantastic Jeff Roberts. Hi Jeff, how are you?
I'm well. Thanks for the invitation to be on your show.
Good to have you along. So Jeff is founder and CEO of Innovation Vista, which is an IT consulting firm that gives strategic leadership for mid-sized organizations. And with over 25 years of experience as a CIO, including 5-10 years leading digital transformations, and I have a little background in digital transformation. I'm surprised you've still got hair. Has become known for turning IT departments into profit centers, driving business growth through tech stack. Jeff's leadership, Innovation Vista has, and this is interesting, right? So originally when we wrote this bio, they'd advised over 650. Jeff tells me today that's now over 700. So congratulations on the milestone. 700 C-suites and delivered over $2.4 billion in client results, which is amazing. Can't imagine that. Jeff, thank you very much for agreeing to be a guest on the show. I'd like to kind of just jump straight into things with you, if that's all right. Obviously, guests on our show kind of fall into one of two buckets. One is marketers who have a lot of experience across lots of different industries. And the other is entrepreneurs and founders. And I'm sure a few people who's turned up for marketing advice today are wondering, what sort of advice am I going to get from a CIO? I'm actually really excited by this because I know a little bit more behind the scenes. But let's start back at the beginning. So you had an impressive career as a CIO and then founding Innovation Vista. Why did you decide to go it alone and start your own business? What was the turning point for you?
Yeah, so I guess in a couple of the 10 years as the CIO, I had some touch points on some short-term projects and turnaround, an interim role. I saw some things that are a little more normal in the contracting and consulting engagement space. And I find myself really enjoying those. And I enjoyed those maybe a little more than the farmer kinds of roles that a CIO coordinated position often ends up being, right? There's an existing platform, it needs improvements, but a lot of the role is understanding what's there, understanding the team, understanding the vendors, and, sort of operating the machine while you improve it. I found myself really enjoying more the broken platforms or we really need to change the way this whole organization works, maybe in an M&A event or something like that, where there are a lot of strategic decisions needed in a short period of time. And we got leadership support for major change. So all of that was in my mind. The last role that I was the CIO for a commercial real estate firm, they were acquired by a huge multinational in 2019. And so rather than thinking about finding CIO chair number 6, I said, I'm going to do this. It's been on my mind and I'm going to start a firm. My original idea was fractional CIO, and I wanted to do some work myself, and I knew some other colleagues that I thought maybe I could subcontract them. That was late 2019, right before COVID. That could be its own show. COVID and the aftermath of COVID, there were a lot of horrible things, of course, but part of the silver lining of COVID for me was this comfort level everyone began to have with video conferencing and remote work in general, particularly for consulting, getting your advice from someone who is not in your same city. And that really opened a whole new model for us. My fledgling business, right, 4 or 5 months old, I began to realize I don't need to worry about the specific city and market where people are. I need time zone has to work, right, to some extent, but this really can be a global business. And I can make it about really just finding the very best fit for what a client is looking to do, find the best fit among all of the consultants that I can find. So I began to really build that network. We're at over 400 consultants in our network now. I still try to take care of a client or two myself. So I keep my skills sharp, but a lot of what I spend time on is business development and finding opportunities for these freelance CIOs, CTOs, CISOs, et cetera, that I have met through the years.
That's amazing. It's funny because my business started well after COVID. And in fact, I only moved out of the B2C space at the very beginning of COVID. So I'd never experienced online or hybrid work until COVID happened in the first place. And hands on heart, it was a combination of serendipity, good fortune, hard work, networking, and the way that the world ended up, that I got out of that B2C space. I was so desperate to leave. And I've always, it's weird for me when I hear people talk about, do you have a lot of clients in the local area? Because I've never even thought about trying to get clients in my local area, because it feels like really hard work to do that. Why would I try and get clients in my local area when I could just go broad and go across LinkedIn and find people wherever they are, regardless of their geography? So it's always interesting to speak with folks like yourself who've been on the other side of that and trying to find, through local network, through local businesses and things. I'd be keen to understand your viewpoint on market and sales with your CIO hat on, because I know, certainly in the current landscape, that the amount of software, the amount of information, the amount of data, it's a technical headache for most IT teams, right?
I didn't have a lot of experience with marketing. I had supported a few website projects, led a mobile app development project for direct customer contact. I'd helped some sales teams, a lot of work around sales empowerment, sales analytics, even some AI and prediction of what customers are maybe going to be interested in, mainly B2B in my client experience as a CIO.
Hi, and thanks for joining us for the show. I'm Paul, founder here at Javelin Content Management. We specialize in getting ideas out of your head, down into video, and out to your social media through repurposing and efficient content strategies. If you want to find out how you can convert your ideal audience into paying customers, reach out to us, javelincontent.com, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode.
So I knew those things, but really when I began to think about founding the firm, I did a lot of reading because I needed to come up to speed on marketing. And frankly, there are too many ideas out there. I spent a lot of money that I probably should have just left in my bank account on marketing strategists, marketing partners, marketing outsourced services, fractional sales managers, and nothing against any of those groups. The problem was not that. The problem was I still hadn't fully formulated what I wanted to do with this business. I did that very early on, 2019, pre-revenue. I'm there, hey, I want to engage you. I need to find out, how do I do branding? How do I do marketing messaging on a business that we're about providing C-level IT support? And I sort of knew the 1,000-foot view of what I wanted, but it's got to be more than that, right? And so I learned the hard way, not the easy way. Fortunately, read all those books trying to learn the easy way, and really made a lot of mistakes. Like I said, spent a lot of money early on that was not real effective because my vision was not really there yet. And I don't know that I could say it's fully there yet now. I certainly have learned a lot of lessons. I've learned what is working. There's still a lot of things that work. And it's, to me, I find that they work sort of this much. So I don't have that one thing that just is going to send me.
It's a mix, right?
Into exponential. Yeah. But, my wife tells me that's probably a good thing, Jeff. Because with exponential growth, you'd lose your mind even more than you already are. And So steady growth, you're growing about 40% a year or something like that. That steady growth is nice. And it lets you systematize sort of in a sane kind of cadence. And, as things get to scale, then you can put a process around them and standardize. So my journey with marketing has kind of been this learn the hard way, finally figure out some things, have the light of realization hit me after I've tried 3 or 4 other things that really were not as effective.
I wonder, when you're working with your clients, do you find that the sales and the marketing teams work hard to keep their software systems away from the C-suite and away from the CIO in fear that kind of they'll become too restricted? Is that something that you see in the marketplace?
I do, sure. Actually, increasingly so, because software as a service has really opened the door to, you can subscribe to something. It's hosted in the cloud. You don't need IT. It's not going into your data center. You don't need a system administrator to install it, and a lot of the things you used to need. So that is certainly escalated shadow IT, what CIOs often call that. I call it, business people trying to get things done. And I try to get CIOs to understand it's not evil. They're not just, purposefully trying to exclude you from these conversations. What they're really trying to do is do what they can with what they're empowered to do themselves. And it's sort of human nature. To some extent, it's okay. There are a few things, of course, that IT people worry about with respect to marketing systems, confidentiality, can spam, and laws like that, right? We want to make sure we're compliant. We're the ones that will be audited on those things, not the marketing group. And so there's a little bit of a mindset of we're being paid to think about things in a different way, whether we're a consultant or a full-time CIO. But that really just turns into a need to partner and collaborate and find a way with marketing to put something in place that works for them, where they do have control, particularly with content and the flow in social media marketing, content marketing. The pace of generation and publication of that stuff has just gone up and up and up. And it's an arms race in some sense for a lot of these businesses to keep up with their competitors. They can't wait on IT tickets to say, well, we need to add a new menu item. We're creating a new topic for a series of blogs we want to put out. They've got to be able to do that stuff themselves and be nimble and have a staff meeting and change direction. So I've learned a lot about what marketing people really need.
And yet
by needing it myself.
It still surprises me how many businesses still use their main email domain to send cold emails. Still.
No, you're absolutely right. It's one of the things we talk about, the blacklist risk, and the compliance laws around opt-outs and things like that. You don't probably want to do that. Create a separate domain, create a subdomain where, that risk being categorized as spam or people opting out of your messaging doesn't take you away from really being able to communicate with actual customers that you have a business reason to connect with.
I find that marketers now technology has become so kind of simple to use that marketers, it's become democratized, right? So a lot of the stuff that would have traditionally sat with IT, you called it out. It sits in the cloud. It's very easy. It's one-click stuff, a lot of it. But then I find that there's a lot of people out there who will sign up to something because it looks a really good idea, but haven't really fully investigated it. And then when they get into it, they've kind of spent a bit of money to get access to it. And then they realize, I need this, this, and this. But if I do that, I can't do it myself, really. But IT are going to want to ask questions about it. And that's going to get back to my boss. He's going to ask why I bought this product that we probably don't really need, but I just want to play with it. And so you find people are trying to do all these, like setting up domains. Like I've come across loads of marketers who try and set up domains themselves. And there's so many, I'm not an expert by any means, but I know the basics. I know enough to be safe with setting domains up. And I still come across And so this applies whether you're a small business, whether you're a medium business. I've even seen larger businesses, larger domain businesses still using their primary domain to pump out. And it's usually just an over-eager salesperson somewhere who's realized something's not locked down, and I'm gonna use it, and I'm gonna volume spam people. I can't stress it enough. It's a danger that's never existed before the last few years, really, because of the acceleration of, and this is kind of where I was going with this, is the acceleration of AI and platforms that claim to be AI, but let's be honest, are quite AI. What's your position on AI? Is it helpful? Is it not?
Incredibly helpful if you find the right use cases and separate the hype from the reality. There's that's a answer with a lot of baggage embedded in the end. I will say you so much agree with what you said about the individual efforts. And there's some technical things that IT people do around DMARC and DKIM and SPF, things in the setup of the email domain, which can control, okay, we will tell you which tools and which other domains are enabled to send on our behalf. They help with that. The other touch point we find is when marketing people want to make some connections of dots, especially B2B, want to make some connections with CRM. Who's opening my emails? Are they actual customers? What other things have they done? That tends to not be something that's out of the box, right? So now you need IT to get involved and integrate, or maybe seeing the traffic on the website, depending on your tools. You can tell if they open an email. You can't necessarily tell where they went on the website after they are there, unless you also integrate with through some IT efforts. So we find that's when a lot of CIOs hear about these initiatives, is when they're already running, and now we've got this thing and it's great, and we're trying to get data from the other side of the equation. We can run a report to see what are people actually doing with us in terms of transactions. That's all great. I will say AI is a topic in the last 12 months that like most consultants in this space, have burst on the scenes, right? With ChatGPT-3 in particular. There are a lot of others now. There's the Claude and the Gemini and the Grok, and a proliferation of these tools is underway, and that will end up consolidating, and we'll have there'll be some winners and some losers, like for most things, but it's an arms race there too right now. The idea that something is now possible with an affordable cost that delivers real results, that has some value in predictive accuracy, that is definitely gaining traction. And we see, you mentioned our 2.4 billion, 1.3 billion of our impact, which we take a lot of pride in thinking more and aiming more for revenue and market share for our clients than really any of our competitors that I know of. A lot of IT groups talk about efficiencies and automation, and those things are great. But I really find, I tell people, if you really want to get the CEO excited, not just the CFO, talk about growth, talk about market share and revenue. And if you can deliver those things, that's when you get the board of directors. That's when you get the CEO paying attention and supporting what you're trying to do. Because you can't save your way to growth, as they say. It's got to be, this top line. And I can deliver some top line in ways that automation cannot do. I mentioned in my background, empowering sales teams, that some of that was and is predictive AI. And especially again, in the B2B world, there's so much more partnerships, and the patterns are richer, and repeat business is often just way more common with B2B than it is with B2C. They buy your product once, they have it, they're done, right? It's so much of the time in B2C. But B2B, they're going to come back and they're going to do other things. And that thing they bought from you, they may sell to someone else. So, there's a lot of middleman sort of businesses that just the power of AI to connect those dots, to see what entities are doing in the market. There's a tremendous value in the data that these companies have about their customer base, where there's activities. There's also tremendous value in outside data, enriching data, we call it, where you go and get an industry-wide report. Some industries have it. Some industries are very mature in this, and some are not. Financial services, things like that are very mature on this space, where it's not what they've done with you. You can see what kind of business are they doing with your competitors. And that sort of visibility leads to some very powerful predictions in ways you can understand almost in AI, the mind of the customer. What are they trying to achieve? What sorts of things are they buying? What sorts of things are they selling? What things happen in the economy that drive them to those activities? You see similar things in the economy the next time, you can predict what that group is going to do. That's all. It's amazing.
It's exciting. Yeah.
I agree. Well, your groups that have that, brokerages, things like that, investment advisors, right? I mean, those kinds of businesses that have the AI power may be in a position to completely disrupt their space, where that will become the difference maker, where firms that have it will just take over. We can do things better, cheaper, faster, dramatically, as opposed to having an army of analysts that have to crawl through spreadsheets and understand this data. And some of this is millions and billions of rows of data. You just can't hire enough people to do that kind of analysis, where now you can spend, $11 on cloud costs to run an analysis that goes through that entire data set. It creates amazing predictions that you know who to reach out to, you know what to say when you reach out. You can automate and personalize the outreach. I could keep going forever. It is an exciting time to be involved in IT and really specifically AI advisory, because just things are moving so fast and things are possible now that really move the needle.
But then on the other side of things, there's some pretty scary things that are happening. I say scary. Anything new in the technology world tends to be scary at first until we get more used to the idea. And I read an article. It's funny because this episode probably won't go out until sort of January, February time, right? So it'll be old news by then, I'm sure. But some Harvard students managed to plug some facial recognition into the Ray-Ban AI glasses. That scares the bejesus out of me, because the potential for nefarious use, that's huge. But then also at the same time, we've got an announcement from Claude this morning that they can now, in certain environments, control your PC for you with the AI. Like, that's both a dream and, again, scary as hell, because we remember what happened when Microsoft brought in macros for Excel, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, well, and the the bad guys out there, any time you take your personal control away and you're given the keys to your environment to a system, the opportunity for criminal activity on that is, that's where they're going to pay a lot of attention. Because what more fantastic thing is there than taking remote control of someone's PC? They've got their finances, they've got everything there. So yeah, whether things are a risk now, I kind of agree with you that they will be, in ways that we can't even predict a lot of this. And that's embarrassing for people to make a space to admit. But we tell people, we have, it's sort of like headlights on a car. We can predict to some extent. We know what people are working on. We know, things are going to get faster, and things that were not feasible now because the models take 2 days to run. That's going to be 2 hours within 6 months. So that sort of thing, we have that sort of forward look. But to predict what's going to be happening in 2030, or and what's possible, what are people worried about? What kind of controls and protections are we going to need? Because, like the glasses example that just came out, as you mentioned, That is very innocuous public data, Facebook profile, LinkedIn profile, things of that nature, where people have a picture of their face, they have some information about themselves, professional, personal, but it people feel okay about it because it's in isolation. And if you're on LinkedIn, you want people to see your face, then you know where you work and what you do. But if you combine that with all of these other things, and now you see that someone is a sergeant in a police force, for example, and here they are at some kind of a political rally event, undercover potentially, right? Like that's not supposed to happen because that data is never supposed to come together, and AI can bring it together. So yeah, it's a brave new world. I have a feeling there's going to be exciting things, and then there's going to be some hitting in the forehead, and oh my gosh, we need to lock this down, or we to in some cases, ask people to turn things off for a while until we can put some protections in place. Will they play ball with that? Will they not? It's going to be a rough ride, but an exciting ride as we go through this society, really worldwide.
So then putting your marketing business owner hat back on, I guess you've made what is clearly a very successful business, and congratulations on getting to the heights that you have. If you're looking back now at where your business came from, what marketing strategies or sales strategies would you say, in your opinion, is the most successful, and why?
That is a great question. I think, our target market is C-level executives of mid-sized companies. In other words, our target market is the very busiest people in the world. And by the way, the people who are targeted by the most other marketing and sales organizations in the world. So do you get their attention? How do you make it clear to them that you're doing something that someone else isn't, or that the thing you're doing in a way that no one else isn't? That is incredibly hard. And I guess I would say I've learned to respect the customer. That sounds so obvious to say, but what I mean is tailoring what you say, not automating and just blasting and spray and pray, and right, the sort of idea where people are out there selling all these marketing automation tools. There's a place for automation. I mean, I'm a Luddite that, and certainly in my business, I can't be there's no place for that. But you have to understand who's receiving that, and the value you bring is where AI can step in and help with automation. You have to bring them value in their industry, in their specific situation, and in their competitive landscape. It can't just be this vanilla message that is the same that you send to a hospital administrator, that you send to a manufacturing company, that you send to the head of a university. It just, that can't happen. That when they get marketing messages, when they see a website page, it has to really resonate with them. And so that idea of, and we market across every major vertical. Now that we have, really, once we got to 300, we're over 400 consultants now.
That's amazing.
That's people who are in every possible sector that you can imagine. We double-digit consultants in a lot of sectors that are common and large, but the messaging can't be the same for all of them, right? So I had to learn this idea of segmentation, micro segmentation, and personalization of that messaging. And then the value of brand building, content marketing, putting out thought leadership pieces. I am spending 10 times more of my bandwidth than I expected ever to writing articles, doing podcast interviews like this, because of the brand visibility. I so appreciate the opportunity. So thank you again. It's important, and it's important not just to sell Contact Innovation Vista. We're great. These kind of interviews and articles and everything I put out, they have to add value. It has to make sense and really be helpful for people who listen and read, even if they never contact us, right? Because that's how you get that sort of respect and you show that you respect the customer. And then, so I guess all of those lessons learned have helped us get to the point we are today. I always want to stay humble. I'm constantly seeing other people do things that I think, wow, that was actually really smart. I might have to steal that idea or combine that idea with something I've been noodling about. It's constant. It changes. And that's another exciting thing about running your own business, right? Is figuring out what is the most effective way to reach the customer base. But a lot of what's out there for sale on the shelf is not going to work, especially if you're reaching the C-suite. They get those messages thousands of times a day, and they've got spam filtering and everything else that they're going to treat you like every other spammer out there, unless you really find a way to add value to each and every recipient.
Yep. I wholeheartedly agree with almost everything that you've said, Jeff. I think we could probably talk for a long time on all of those subjects, but you're right. Ultimately, it's about adding value for people and acknowledging that whilst they might not be a client, they might spread the word about you. And that, for me, is every bit as important as finding the clients. You need both an equal mix. And for reference, I would probably be most CIO's worst nightmare as an ADHD person with technical abilities. I once trained as a software engineer. I wouldn't say I'm a coder anymore. I've kind of lost all that behind, but I'm good. I'm good enough for technology to get things going and cause problems. And I'm good enough to keep it hidden for long enough that nobody finds out. And that's why I'm probably better off running my own business, because now I have to be careful because it comes back on me directly. But it's always interesting. I can see terms and conditions and stuff, and I'm like, oh, no, I'm not reading that. God, I haven't got the attention span to read it, right? So I'm just going to move on and assume nobody's trying to pull a fast one. And we always are. There's always something in there, right? So I really appreciate the conversation, Jeff. If anybody wants to find out a bit more, how can they contact you? How can they learn more about Innovation Vista?
Appreciate that. So our website is innovationvista.com, as you would expect. And I mentioned social media. I am incredibly active on LinkedIn. Happy to message. I have a lot of messages on the website and on LinkedIn where and it's not always people who want to engage us with some sort of paid project or something. I actually welcome conversations. People ask, real quick, hey, what's your favorite such and such system? Or we've got this. Have you ever seen that before? I love that stuff. And I do that, like you just said, the adding value. I think of those interactions as paying it forward a little bit and staying sharp on the leading edge myself. And you never know, someone who's not a customer now that we can add some value to 3 years down the road, they may have a need that they do not have today and can't even predict today. And all of a sudden they have it and they remember and say, you know what, that was a great interaction. I'm going to reach back out to Innovation Vista.
You remember how you made them feel.
Hey, reach out and I will personally, or I will get you to the right consultant, even if it's just a quick 10-minute, Q&A sort of thing. We're happy to get it.
Thank you very much for your time, Jeff. It's been a pleasure chatting, and thank you at home for coming along and watching. I'll see you next week on MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers for another episode.
Thanks for joining us for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to feature on a future show, or you've got some ideas for folks who would make a great guest, please drop us a line. Contact details are in the show notes, and I'd love to hear from you. Your host today was me, Paul Banks, founder at Javelin Content Management. Here at Javelin, we specialise in helping busy business owners just like you to repurpose video content, taking all the stress and tech problems away and turning your long-form video into literally hundreds of pieces of content without breaking the bank. We describe it as getting ideas out of your head into video and out to your socials. If you want to launch your personal brand, become the vendor of choice for your audience, or maximise your sales revenue impact, we'd love to hear from you. Join us next Wednesday for the next episode, and don't forget to subscribe and give us a review. Our podcast is only possible with your continued support.